Well, good afternoon, listeners. I am so excited because I'm speaking today with Frederick Atkinson. Many of you who are literature lovers may know who he is, but he has several socials. He has a YouTube, he has a Substack, he has TikTok, he has all of these different avenues where he talks about literature and writing, and he even reads excerpts from some books and poems and things like that. And I came across his channel from a friend, and I was so impressed because I guess I've seen literature channels and people talk about books, but his was very unique. It was also very regular, which is always nice to see because a lot of times the literature channels I've come across, someone hasn't posted for a year. So you knew they kind of just did it. They read a book they liked, they came on, started a channel, and then they're gone. But this is something that he does full time, and it's just so neat. And I'll have his social linked below if you'd like to check out. He has a ton of different videos on different books. He's recently been talking about Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights and a whole bunch of things. So I wanted to have him on the podcast. So Frederick, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for doing this when it's nighttime for you in the UK.
Thank you so much for having me. Don't worry, I'm often a bit of a night owl when working, so this is just I'm feeling very at home right now. And thank you so much. I've been looking at your channel when you sent me that email, and I just love your in-depth conversations. It's very personable and just welcoming. And I thought I'd love to be a part of that. So thank you for having me.
Yes, no, thank you. I want to start out because you mentioned before we started recording, that you have wanted to be a writer for a long time since you were a little kid. So take me through that journey of wanting to be a writer, why? And then you did self-publish a book, which seems very interesting. It seems like, from what I read, it's like The Enemy of Beowulf. It's almost like a sequel to that. And then what moved you, I don't know if you're still writing or not, but moved you towards, okay, I'm going to just completely do online and like talk about literary criticism and all of that?
That's a good question because the goal for me was always to be a writer. I've wanted to be a writer since I was very little. I think it's because I just love telling stories. My parents have told me stories about how I would just be yapping, completely unconsensual to everyone in the room about something. It's and I'm sure you can tell from looking at my channel. But I basically loved books, and part of me loves the idea of being an author. That's something I'm not afraid to admit, because I'd read something by Evelyn Waugh or John Milton, to go a bit further back, and think, I want to be able to do that. I want to be that guy that can do that, as well as love the words themselves and the verse and the poetry and the poetry within the prose and the prosaic work. So that's what I wanted. That was my motivations. English literature was by far and away my best subject at school. At prep school, which in the UK is from ages 8 to 12 or so, or 13, is at that age, I think I was about 10, I remember asking my maths teacher if I can have a maths textbook so I could do extra maths. And then I did it, and I wrote a sort of massive fantasy story in it, just penciled it in my spare time because I loved doing it. And then he found the book later, which I left lying around, and apparently they were reading it in the staff room, and he was like, Freddie, if you want to write a book, just ask me. You don't have to lie about it. So that's when I realized it was okay to do that. Anyway, I'll fast forward. Did English literature at university, having focused on A-levels, which is a kind of pre-uni end of school exams in the UK, and loved it so much. Still wanted to be a writer, so I stayed at the university for another year, did a full-time master's degree in creative writing, got taught by some very interesting writers. And then graduated. I stopped being a student in December 2024. And then in January the 4th of 2025, I posted my first video, thinking, let's post these videos, see how it goes. Like, maybe I'll end up getting a job in insurance like my old man or something. And that can be a pipe dream for when I grow old in my retirement. But lo and behold, the videos got a bit of traction. There was a wonderful little community being built up. And I was just so happy. It's like you hit, I don't know, like 10,000 followers as a first marker, shall we say. You're still not like raking it in and not even at all, really. So it was always a passion project for like the first almost a year. But it just kept growing and a bit of work started coming in. And then, as you mentioned, I decided to self-publish a book which I wrote at university, which, if you want to read it, guys, do check it out. But fair warning, and this is awful marketing, it's written largely in Anglo-Saxon, which you won't be able to understand because it is from the perspective of the monster, I know, of Beowulf, my favorite text ever. This poor old thing, you can tell. And so anyway, so that's something I did. But now I'm going a bit more of a traditional route. In December of last year, I was approached by a chap that represents a literary agency. And he said, "Would you like to write a book?" And I was like, "Well, you clearly don't know me. Like, that's what I want. That's the aim of the game." And so now I have a deadline for a non-fiction book about Anglo-Saxon cultures with a bit of a fictional spin on it. And the deadline for the proposal is in about a week. So I'm really writing. So I'll be up late tonight writing and up early in the morning. It's such fun. So that's where I am. I talk about books on my channel, covering all sorts of the canon, that which I'm comfortable with, of course. And it's a bit of a balancing act between wanting to be a pure creator of literature and also being a sort of worshipper at the altar of other great pantheonic writers that have come before me and will come after, I'm sure. So that's currently where I'm at. That's the summary of me, essentially. I hope that sort of covers all the bases.
Well, I was gonna say, do you have like a support team that's like very proud of you for pursuing this? Because I know when I was growing up, my parents had a specific, not my mom so much, my dad, they had like a specific trinity of like these would be the best kinds of jobs, and then if you have stuff you want to do that's not one of these, then maybe you can do it on the side. Because finances were such a huge thing, and now
Yeah.
especially it's unfortunately it's on everyone's minds a lot. um like how does do you have you was this something that you had to kind of battle through to do, or is this something that you had a lot of support and there wasn't a question about, okay, it's okay if I become a writer, I don't have to live up to a certain expectation here?
Yeah, that's a good question because it's a bit of both, but I did have to battle for it a bit. I think even when I was on TikTok, had something like 80,000 followers and was posting regularly and everything was going cool. Even then, I remember Dad going, "Are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty in it at the moment. I'm going for it." I think it's probably an intergenerational thing where the parents are kind of like, "You can do this for a living, you can do that, and you can do these creative things." So that was a concern that I did have to fight for. But my parents, my mother especially, always always knew that I would be a creative in something creative at the very least. She was saying maybe try marketing or maybe something like that. So that was a compromise he proposed, but I'm very much a stubborn child. I don't know about you, but I was like, no, this is what I'm doing. So yeah.
Well, also, I mean, and because yours is a niche, but what's so cool is it's a big niche. I mean, it's so cool to see the following you have and the people that engage. I mean, I don't know, because in America, and this is maybe because I'm just not in that circle. I mean, recently I was in Boston and I was so surprised by how many people were talking about books and we're having very intellectual conversation about books. But here, I mean, at least in the circle I'm in near DC, I mean, yeah, we talk about books, but very modern, recent books. I mean, you're not going to get a ton of people who are going to, for instance, talk about The Heart of Darkness with you, like
Mm.
it's just not going to, or, Beowulf, no. Many
Yeah.
people will be like, what the heck is that? So, it's like literature in the sense of especially older, it's like it's hard to find. And so I don't know, in England, is in the UK, is that different? Like, does it matter where you are? Or for most people, wherever you are, you can sit down and talk about literature and people know. Whereas here it is more, I mean, it depends where you are, but a lot of times it is much more modern work. So like J.K. Rowling is going to be the one that we talk about, or the big names. People know maybe who C.S. Lewis is because they read Narnia in school, things
Yeah.
like that. But not like you read Villette, which I read, I don't know, a couple years ago. I loved that book, but I've never met another person who's read that book. And
Yeah.
I was like, how can you have not read this? And they said, well, and then they say, well, have you read Jane Eyre? They're like, what's that? And you're like, wait. But so, yeah, is that just different in the UK though? Or is it circles you're in, or?
That's an excellent question. Well, you mentioned circles, and I think from my point of view, I've always been quite bookish, even when I wasn't talking about it as much. Like you gravitate towards people that like the things that you like,
Yeah.
and it's not an act of like certain circles are just better or worse than others. It's just what you like is what you like, and that's what I maintain. And so I've always liked this, and so to me it would appear like yes, there is people at least know of more literature. You know, everyone here will know what Beowulf is, but that's because it's like it's the seminal, greatest first bit of English literature. You will never find anything older and expansive like this,
Yeah.
written just over 1,000 years ago. But not everyone's read it, actually. I think the sort of Anglo-American cultures are slightly more similar in terms of literature, maybe with a greater emphasis on English literature, because I don't know, we'll read 1984 a lot, but you guys might read, and correct me if I'm wrong, something like Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451,
Yeah.
which is a kind of equivalent. Yeah, see, we've got our things. Like I've been reading Herman Melville's Moby Dick. We don't really study that over here that much. So like that's American literature. So I guess it's the same with history. You guys stick to what you know, and we stick to what we know. And sometimes there's crossover. So that's in terms of who knows what text. But as to are people more literary in the UK, I mean, I'm tempted to be biased and say, yes, we are, but I don't think we are, actually. I think it's the same. In 2026, I think the BBC, the British Broadcasting Channel, the main one here, has declared 2026 to be the year to get people reading again. So there's clearly a deficit that has been recorded by many articles that I've cited on my channel in reading in the UK and in America. So we are very much joined at the hip in terms of people not reading as much. And so in terms of people not being as literate, I would say we're kind of the same. That's my overall sort of answer, I'd say.
Well, I'm wondering because a lot of big channels now, I guess influencers you would call them, they comment a lot on what's going on in culture, in the immediate,
Yes.
what's going on now.
Mm.
And they rack up a following very quickly. And this isn't to hit on anybody, but it's just to say that, they pick a certain perspective. Maybe they'll pick a fight with another person who has a different perspective, and then you've got this channel just growing because you get just all of this traction and all of this fighting, and it's drama, and people are very interested in that.
Mm.
So I wanted to ask you, like, as you're building this following, which is pretty sizable, and you're saying you have people that you are collaborating with, you have this opportunity that you're working on, and it's like, do you ever get tempted to use your account to say something about current events because you have so many people listening to you? So if you're very
Yeah.
upset by something, or if something visceral is for you, but you want to, because that's one thing I've struggled with at times, is like, I've had people say, why don't you do this? And I'm like, but if I do that, I'm going to kind of leave what I'm doing, and I don't want to do that too much, because then the people that have come on and follow, it's almost like I do have a duty to them to stay with what I started. I mean, it doesn't mean I can't do something else, but it also means that if I want them to keep listening, I should have content that's similar to what I started with. But I wondered, like, as especially with all that's going on in the world now, so many more
Mm.
people are coming out on their channels to say whatever. Is that something you find hard, or is it easier for you to go, no, this is my subject matter, this is what I'm sticking to?
Mm. That is a very good question, and it's very topical. I think people have been talking about that. Like, one, do I feel the need to, but also, do I feel obligated to? If I feel
Yeah,
very
yeah.
strongly about something and I have a platform, should I politicize it just for a video or two, perhaps? And the answer is, I don't know. I swing back and forth on this. And as you say, there's so much crap going on.
Mm-hmm.
Things that make me very angry and things that make me very happy. It's worth mentioning too. And not it's not all crap, although sometimes it does feel like it. And I would say I do not feel I do feel the urge to just say something about something, because sometimes things, politically speaking, to me and maybe to you, when you have a thought on an opinion on something, you think it's so simple. Come on, let's just say it.
Yeah.
But then, as you say, I think I do have a duty not to not politicize things, because books are very political and have been for millennia,
Yeah.
but to let the books talk for themselves. And I'm not a political channel, that's a separate niche. And I can talk about the dystopia of over surveillance in 1984, for example, or I can talk about criticisms to certain things written in Shakespeare, and that's politics at the time. And perhaps I can relate that now. For instance, um, I a while ago did a reading of Ozymandias by Percy Bysshe Shelley, one of the Romantic poets, and it's a very famous poem. It's about it's actually a statue of Ramesses II, I think, and it says, "Look upon ye mighty, my works, and despair about this mighty king." That's what the plaque says, and yet the poet looks around and sees nothing but sand. How his empire has fallen, and he thinks that he would last forever. And so I cited that and said, if you guys feel like you're living in particularly despotic times, just know that it's all ephemeral, and this too shall pass, which is a Persian saying. So that's about the closest I've got to politicizing. I can hint at things, and sometimes I feel like that's a bit cowardly, and that if I feel in my heart of hearts, which is from Shakespeare, that phrase, if I feel in my heart of hearts that um, I just need to do the right thing and say something, at least lend my voice. But at the end of the day, I don't, because it's just not what people signed up for. And I don't think, I don't know, I just feel towards them that I don't want to do that. Even if they agree with me,
Yeah.
even if someone says something that you agree with, you're like, okay, fine, but why are you saying that now? Like that, this is not an environment where we're talking about that. You know, we're having breakfast with the family or something, to use an anecdote. So yeah, it's a tricky one, but ultimately I shy away from it because that's not what I've curated for myself and my followers, and so I'm not going to impose that on them, be it benevolent or something that they disagree with. So yeah.
Is there like a particular book that you talked about that you found was very controversial for viewers? Like, did you find there was a book in particular that really got people talking on your channel?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that book, I spoke about the controversy of it for like 3 videos running. You know, that's when you're really milking something. Not that I meant to. But it was published in 1899, and it's somewhat biographical. The author, Joseph Conrad, impressive man, taught himself English in his 20s and wrote one of the best books in English, several. And he went into the Congo when the Belgians were colonizing it. Colonizing is quite a gentle term. What occurred there was, like, you know what I mean. And he saw a lot of that, and well, he didn't see much of the murder, but he saw the greed of Europe, and the book is criticizing that. However, so that's any colonial or post-colonial literature is topical and invokes discussion, as it should. But this book, because it was written in 1899, uses language. There doesn't seem to be hate from the author, but there's language that we definitely consider hateful is even a gentle word. It's straight up racist, and it's not okay. Even though the author is very anti-colonial and doesn't like what the Europeans are doing in Africa. So there's a bit of a sort of confusion going on. Is the man racist, or is he using the racist terminology of a time to critique colonialism and imperialism? So that book really got people talking about. And people often talk about colonialism. Well, that's a thing that the Brits did and the French did and everyone else did in the 1800s. But in my opinion, and I haven't said this online, it's still going on in different ways. And it's good to look at old books on colonialism, be them in approval of that or disapproval of that, and to try and draw links and see if there's something we can learn from. I think it was Mark Twain, one of America's amazing authors, who said, history never repeats itself, but it often rhymes. And the previous verse of colonial literature and literature around racial tensions can definitely be looked at through a modern lens and help us to learn more about the issues we have today. So that's the kind of things that have gotten the most discussions invoked, I would say.
See, I agree with you on that, but I think so many people are worried about, like, for instance, if there's a racist term that we don't use anymore, but it's said in a book, then it's like, oh, maybe we should not read that book anymore because it'll be offensive to somebody. And it's like, but I feel like you need to look at the entire picture of the book. Now, you can end the book and say, I didn't like it, and that's fine. But to not read a book or to censor a book because there's a particular word in it that you don't like, especially if it's older literature when this wasn't a conversation. Like people weren't back then, that was used a lot, even though now we don't do that anymore, which is a good thing. But I mean, are you going to criticize them for saying it then in their time writing a book like you're saying Heart of Darkness, where he's actually trying to get at a point that we would agree with now? And are you going to just
Yeah.
toss it out because of a particular word? And that's something that, especially I think now too, with all that we've been talking about, especially in the US, with books being taken out or if books should stay and all of this kind of conversation, it's very interesting because I want, like, I've even thought of this because I grew up reading a lot of books that agreed with my positions right as a kid. And then when I went to college, and I'm so grateful for this, I was introduced to a lot of ideas I didn't agree with. But I could
Mm.
read the books and I could see the world through that perspective for a little bit. And I didn't have to agree with it. But I could have said I read it and I could have a conversation with someone on it instead of just simply saying, yeah, I don't agree. Well, why? Did you read the book? No, I didn't. Okay, so then what kind of ground do you have for any sort of conversation? But
Yeah.
reading it opens your eyes. And also, I think it does give you a perspective of the other person and an empathy or at least a sympathy for what they're going through or whatever their perspective is. And so
Mm.
that's something that, especially with literature, I get into this with a lot of people. So I loved your videos on the Brontë sisters because I love Jane Eyre.
Mm.
I love Jane Eyre more than I like Wuthering Heights. I do like
It's,
Wuthering Heights. It's very emotive. So like all
yeah.
your emotions are on fire. But Jane Eyre, I cry. Okay, there's just some moments in that book, especially when Jane is like traversing the moors alone and wrestling, and she's like so alone in the world. I mean, it's just like
Mm.
so. Um, I've related to so many moments in that book, and I remember talking to some friends about it. And I would mention Mr. Rochester, and they would say things like, "Oh, he's horrible. He's so mad and crazy and dysfunctional." And I'm like, "Yes, but do you see the point of this?" And they're like, "Well, how could she love him, and how could she, how could he do this and what he's doing for his wife?" And then I'm like, okay, but do you know that like at the time, so many people who were insane were treated awfully. Like, like when he mentions them being in cages, that's real. That was real for a really long time. And so
Yeah.
you see this man who, yeah, he's not doing it correctly, but he feels like he's no option because he doesn't want to put his wife into an asylum, but he
Mhm.
also can have no relationship with her. So it feels as if he's unmarried completely. So then I don't know. I'm going off, but I'm just saying is it's so easy for people to judge things really quickly. And I'm
Mm.
like, could you think this through just a little bit? Like, if you've suffered in some way, perhaps try to see this from another perspective. Again, you don't have to agree, but we're so quick to just be like, that is, how could anyone do that? And it's just
Mm.
like, ugh. But
Yeah.
anyway, I was gonna say, yeah, and I really appreciated your thoughts on Jane Eyre, but that kind of tangentially applies.
Yeah, no, that was beautifully described. Actually, you got a career in literary analysis if you fancy it. But
Oh, thank you.
yeah, that was no, genuinely. That was yeah. You're so right. People often say, "Oh, Mr. Rochester, I hate him for what he did to wasn't it Bertha." And it's like, yeah, that's fine, but thank God you read the book. There's so many other things to look for in that book, and
Yeah.
as you mentioned, censorship. And if someone doesn't, there are like even if I read all the time, and it seems like I am these days, I'm not going to scratch the surface with all the books that have been written. So you can pick and choose what you think will bring you the most value. That's fine. But as to discussion of censorship, like increasing the likelihood of echo chambers in politics or literature or both, it's just not a good idea because people get further entrenched in their tribalisms, which is very much an issue here in the UK as well
Hmm.
as the US. And I do think that's literature just like your discussion, what you were talking about, Jane Eyre there, it just opens the mind. Like there's bits in it that are beautiful and relatable, and there's bits
Hmm.
which are ugly but understandable, and it references how things were awful back then, not how this writer wants to perpetuate the ugly bits.
Right.
And and that can be done with even, I dare say, the most controversial books, you can learn something from it. You don't have to worship it and think what you're reading is to be taken as gospel. In fact, I hope you don't.
That'd be terrible for some of those.
I'm not condoning people radicalize themselves with literature, or maybe do for good reasons. I don't know. But I think it's literature is essentially. I'm going to use such a cliche term. It's holding a mirror up to the world, and or in other ways, it's invoking a discussion. When you sit down to write a book about something, you are trying to discuss a topic, provided there are themes in the book. If you just want to write a fun romp, that's fine. But if you want to write a canonical literary novel, you are trying to engage with something. And whether or not you've engaged with it well, the people that read that will also be engaging with that. And that is why it's ultimately necessary. And I think it's also just a preservation of knowledge in general, and taking that out of the circulation isn't going to help, unless, of course, you're, I don't know, a despot who wants to keep people, docile. But I think books make people anything other than docile, and that is why we should be reading them for political reasons as well, but also, like me, sometimes I just read stuff because I love it, because it's beautiful. And so I guess there are just so many different ways to approach it. But as you mentioned, with censorship and with interpretations and controversial things, yes, we should be reading them, even if they are uncomfortable, What's another book? Like
I was going to say, what's the most uncomfortable book you read?
Oh, that's good question, actually.
And it can be something about culture, but also could just be something that pricked you as a person, like personal growth.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a really good question. Books that have pricked me often, and I don't mean this as a slight in any way, sometimes is a certain region of American literature can get me a little, because due to the fact that there were higher racial tensions in America at one point, to put it lightly, and so uses of certain racist terminology, even when reading it, kind of, this is uncomfortable, this is ugly to see. So that, I don't know, sort of Of Mice and Men type thing. But they're so necessary to have them as well, of course. But that has irked me, because, you read about that and you think about how far we've come, but also, it's a long way to still go, and it's kind of a depressing and sobering realization reading that, as well as it just appearing somewhat ugly to the ear. So that's stuff that has irked me. But in terms of personal growth, weirdly, it's Old English stuff, actually, because my nerdiness will be showing. But I taught myself Anglo-Saxon at university because I just wanted to translate it, and I wanted to transcribe it, and I wanted to write, like that book I mentioned earlier. And that really felt like a time machine, because on my father's side, I am English going back to that period. And so I'm thinking, whoa, I actually this wasn't taught much on my syllabus. That has really expanded. I feel like it's almost like Lord of the Rings is, by the way, I love Lord of the Rings, very Anglo-Saxon. There are lines in that which are taken directly from Beowulf and other poems. As Tolkien was an Anglo-Saxon scholar, he was a philologist at Oxford. And so that, I'm always kind of it feels like I'm reading magic, like a magic spell from Harry Potter. When I'm reading the line, the Combe of Moor under Misleothum, Grendel Gongan, that's a line from Beowulf, line 817 or something. That expanded my love. I'm surrounded right now with lots of Old English stuff, and I just cannot get enough of it. And it's changed me vastly as a person.
Like how? More... How has it done that?
It's a really good question. Honestly, it re-invoked my love. It kind of rebirthed my love of literature. It went a bit stagnant at university when sometimes when you're told to study things, it can be a bit more boring than if you want to read something for the sake of enjoyment and reading it for yourself. And so there was a time at uni where I was do I even want to be a writer? Some of these texts on the reading list I'm not enjoying this. This is boring. and and I'm good, but not that good at writing essays. So I was kind of like, these are long and arduous, and I just want to go to the pub with my friends. And then I found Old English, and that was the catalyst for me pouring back into all these books, which I loved throughout my childhood and early adulthood.
Hmm.
So really, it's been somewhat of a rebirth for me to get dramatic with it. But so that's probably the personal growth side of it.
Well, I heard a woman, a professor, read some of the Canterbury Tales in its
Mm.
original. It's in. Is it Anglo-Saxon?
It's actually that's Middle English, so
Okay.
that's 30 something, but it's a specifically East Midlands dialect, which is what's in between Old English and Anglo-Saxon and Modern English. So it is very oldie like that.
It
Yes,
was. I
that's
mean,
correct.
it's so soulful. I mean,
Mm,
it's just
mm.
like.
It's wistful. It's lyrical. It's sort of.
I mean, if you
I always
talked that now, people would laugh. But I
yes.
mean, back then, I
Yeah,
mean, that was huge, like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
sounds to these words and words on pages and everything. But it was incredible listening to her. Like, I think the whole room just was still listening because it felt like you were going into this time zone just
Yes.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that. Yeah, I agree. It is. There's something about something. I don't know if it's because if someone speaks Latin, that sounds ancient and beautiful, but I don't know if it's because it's close to English, like it's close to modern English. Like I can make out, I don't know, 70% of the words here or
Yeah.
something, and yet it's not quite. It's sort of teasing your ear a bit, and you're thinking you're close to it. There's an anthologist called Elaine Trahan who did Old English stuff, and I think she said the Anglo-Saxons and by extension Chaucer would have spoken in a language that is both incredibly familiar and yet strangely alien. And that dichotomy, I think, is where the magic lies. I think, just to break it down in a scientific way. But yeah, I'm so glad to hear you say that about Chaucer.
Yeah.
Mm,
No, it's. Can I ask what, you said Beowulf is your favorite. Is it
mm.
because of the sound and reading it from its original text, or is it just the story you really find fascinating? Because I have to be honest with you, I read Beowulf.
Mm.
It was kind of hard for me. I
Did not
wasn't
grip you.
super. Yeah.
Mm. That's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine. No, good question. I love the story, but really it is the sounds, and therein lies the actual nature with Anglo-Saxon poetry, because
Hmm.
there's other poets as well, but that's the most expansive. And it was actually told, it was an oratory tradition. So it was only written down probably by a monk, as I say, a little over 1,000 years ago. And that's because of a Christian tradition of writing things down, even though there are pagan aspects in it. Before that, for hundreds of years, perhaps, it would have been told by shops, spelled Scop, which means like a shaper. That's another word for a poet in Old English.
Hmm.
And they would travel from hearth to hearth, from village to village, and telling these poems. They were never written down, and that goes for Beowulf as well. So they are written and designed for the ear and for community. You would gather around a fireplace. The children would be excited as this mysterious traveling poet would come with, I don't know, sort of snow on his shoulders or something, and tell you the amazing story of Beowulf in its magical way when they go and go into these stories. And that's why they're written in what's called heroic verse. So they're designed for the ear. So the sound of it is innate, an innate part of its beauty in my mind. So
Hmm.
that's probably it. But the story I do like as well. It's got dragons, it's got monsters, kings and queens. It's still very manospheric. Everyone in it is a bloke. But you'll get that in certain ancient histories. But it's worth mentioning, to let people know what they're in for, I suppose.
Oh yeah. No, I think it's definitely important to read. Um,
Mm,
but I want to ask you too, and this is something. Um, it may seem like a strange question, but I've always wondered. I've met several, and I would describe you as this because it's true. You're very knowledgeable, so you're very intellectual. So to have a conversation about something like literature or something you're very passionate about, you know a lot about it. So you could talk about it forever. And that's why you started your channel. I mean, it's your love. It's what you are, equipped to talk about. You could write about it, And I wanted to ask, because I'm guessing and maybe not, I mean, tell me your thoughts on this, but when you meet other people who don't have this much knowledge, and do you ever, like, how do you be aware? Because I have found this for myself. If I am very knowledgeable about something, I can find myself being really, I love talking about how knowledgeable I am about something. So it becomes less about what I'm talking about and more about, oh, I love the sound of my own voice here. I love the sound of how much I know. I feel so important. And I
Yeah.
just wondered, like, specifically for intellectuals who your life is to invest and to know about these things and a lot of times teach it, write about it. How do you balance that? Because I feel like that would be hard because there is this truth of like, I know a lot, probably a
Yeah.
lot more than the average person. But at the same time, that average person is also a person and they have the dignity you have. And so it's hard. How do you balance that? Because I would think that would be hard. And also not to maybe always take over the conversation with what you love. Because you could, I mean, I do that. It's really hard. And it's like, how do you balance that well?
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head for me, and I'm glad I found a kindred soul in you. I like to yap, and you do like the sound of your own voice. I know I do, not you, but sometimes I do. And in fact, I have this joke among friends and families that the reason I started my channel was to give my friends and families a break from me randomly going into some general knowledge fact, some literary fact. So that's the joke. But actually, because I spend all day yapping about literature, and I've become so blessed and fortunate to have a community, online that I can talk about it with and express my thoughts and hear their thoughts. Um, I kind of have spared all my friends. Now I don't have to talk about it. Like, I have an outlet. It's amazing. But before all that, yeah, the urge to talk about it is strong, but also sometimes I do like switching off and
Hmm.
not thinking about the wonderful Brontes, Anne Bronte's The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I've been thinking about that a lot since I read it recently. And
Did you
um,
like her book Agnes Grey?
I
Am I
haven't
saying
got to Agnes Grey yet. I'm really
it's
excited.
good?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, is it? Oh
Okay.
God, don't give me any spoilers.
Okay.
I'm taking a break from the Brontes because they're emotionally so rich.
Yes.
And I read Villette, which is quite very complex and, as you say, so beautiful, isn't it? And
Hmm.
Wuthering Heights as well, Jane Eyre, and The Tenant to reread. And after those four, I was like, I'm going to suffer something because they're not the most they're not cheery, shall we say? They're a little bit,
Yeah.
so in depth and so evocative. But I thought I'd go for something a bit more of a romp, and then went for Moby Dick because that's like men going out and killing whales, which is. I then realised it's also depressing. And
I was gonna say it's not a romp.
no, I can't get rid of it. It sucks. That's the thing about doing classical literature. It's all so depressing. What is the funny? I mean, to be fair, Chaucer is very funny, and Shakespeare can be very funny, but even then, not funny, haha, like you would if you went to a comedy show or something.
Okay,
I can't
well,
remember what.
can I ask, did you when I first read Lord of the Rings and I
Oh yeah,
read The Fellowship and I was reading about I can't cite it perfectly, but it's like when they talk about how Bilbo says that famous line, about liking half of you, half as much as you, and they all like, it's like scattered clapping. That part where it talks about the clapping, I laughed so much out loud. And I don't know why. It's just, I could picture it so well in my mind. Some people are clapping, some people are like scratching their
yeah,
heads. I
yeah.
that, I mean, and that's not a rompy book at all, but that moment and some of the moments Tolkien puts in, I laugh so hard. They're really good.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned. He is quite funny. I think he was he just wanted to sit around and smoke his pipe all day and have an ale and draw maps and write stories, which is exactly what Bilbo wants to do. So I think there was a bit of an autobiographical aspect to Tolkien doing that. But yeah, that's actually a good point. I need to reread those books. I got some hardback copies right there, which I think I stole from school now that I think about it. But yeah, so Lord of the Rings, I think they are amazing. And yeah, the Silmarillion. I don't know if you've read that, but
I
that's actually not.
I've
Yeah,
read half of it so far. It was very dark. I was actually
yeah,
surprised at that.
yeah. Well, I think it was written by him, but it was composed by his son Christopher Tolkien, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
so I guess if Tolkien were alive, the J.R.R. Tolkien, he probably might put a bit of a. I don't know actually. Maybe it was apparently found under the bed, a bunch of notes and all that. So maybe it was his darkest bits of Middle Earth shunted away, and he kept the more jocund Hobbit and Lord of the Rings out. Although they are heavy books sometimes, because he wrote them with war in mind, and sometimes, and he went to World
Yeah.
War One. So um, yeah, but they're fun as well, and the idea of just wanting to stay home and smoke a pipe and eat and read is just that counterbalance between the extreme evil of, like, the orcs, which by the way comes from the Old English word meaning monster, orc, is just so lovely. The little goodness beating out great
Hmm.
evil is something which, I don't know, we could do with more of that. I was talking about everything being depressing. That's a wonderfully optimistic book, although the scouring of the Shire at the end is also depressing. So
I
now I'm
know. Yeah.
so bad. I'm glad they cut that out of the films. That was a yeah. Oh gosh.
Did
But
you
yeah,
like the films?
I do like the films. But the books have more poetry in it and more songs. So I
Yeah, they
prefer the
do.
books.
Do you like the
Yeah,
musical then better?
there's a musical version of it.
Lord of the Rings musical, yes. It was
I
done
didn't know
in
there was a.
there was one done in Canada and there was one done in UK.
Are you having a laugh? I've been living under a rock. Look at that.
And
Sorry, I
it
just
it
googled
has
it.
beautiful songs. Like real
Oh,
like elven tongue and everything. You should totally listen to that.
oh my.
It's not
Okay. Right.
famous, so
Yeah, yeah, well, look at that, Lord of the Rings musical. Oh, I had no idea. I've only recently been getting into musicals. I rewatched since I was a child The Sound of Music recently, and now I'm rebirthing my love for it. But Lord of the Rings musical, thank you so much for that. I love getting a good rec. That has given me something to do. Is it good? Have you seen it?
I wish I could see it in person. It was
Mhm.
it was on for a short time, but it was done by, I think his name is A.R. Rahman, if that's how I'm pronouncing it right. He's an Indian
Mm.
director. And so when he created the musical, like he has like the elves and with the play, like they hang from like silks to represent the trees. And
Oh,
there's just
cool.
this scene where like La Florienne, they have this song. It's just he captures the hobbits and he captures the he uses a lot of the language from the book, and it's like it almost sounds like hymns. He has like battle cries, but it's all song. And so i I my husband, I was listening to in the car and he was listening to me. He's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's Lord of the Rings." He was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is like the songs that are in the book."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but
Ah.
you have to, because I love the songs from La Florienne. They're beautiful. um
Oh yeah,
but yeah, you maybe you can yeah, on your channel you have to let people know about it because I think it's
yeah.
great. But
Oh, that's so good. I got to credit you for that as well. That is just great. How did I not know about that? It's really embarrassing, actually.
well, it's not
Um,
a big thing though. That's the thing.
I'm really surprised. I guess it's a bit weird though, because there's the books themselves are filled with songs. You'd think that
Hmm.
the fans would look at this as and just swarm to it, but that's a bit weird that it's niche. But yeah, yeah. Anyway, but thanks for the recommendation. That's great. I
But
could do with getting.
did you see the new Wuthering Heights? Because I saw you were doing a little bit of a commentary there on your.
Oh, the Emerald Fennell one.
Yes, if that's how you say her name,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. That's I used to say Fennel for a while, and then someone corrected me. But yes, I haven't actually seen it.
Okay, because
I
I was
was
going to ask
going.
you, is it worth it? Because I've heard terrible
Well,
things.
yeah,
So,
me too. Well, I got asked to do a review on it, and I said, well, I can't because I haven't seen it. And then I was kind of like, basically, I thought I'd leave it alone because I for lack of a better term, slagged it off when I saw the trailers and went, this looks a bit like it's not going the right direction for a very hard to capture book. This is a really, really, touchy subject. There's racism and abuse and obsession. It's really, and told in a very, it's very modern and ugly themes that still pervade us today in a very, very celebrated author's work. Like, what are you doing with, like, what I was seeing I wasn't liking. So I did that. A video got a couple million views. It went way before I thought it would. And I kind of was like, oh God, I was very happy people were in agreement with me. Otherwise, I probably would have taken it down. But, and then I did another video talking about it. And that also did all right. And then I kind of thought, you know what, like, I think the best, I'm going to leave it alone. Like, I'm not going to go see it because I know I'm not going to like it. I know I've looked up the plot as per the film and I know I'm not going to like it. And then that's just, and like, there's nothing I can do to change it being existent. People have already, you know what I mean? People have already led their thoughts. Yeah. So I'm going to be stoic about this and just not see it.
Do you have a favorite film adaptation of a book?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I'm not looking forward to this new Odyssey one, so maybe not that, but maybe that'll be fun actually. But
I have no idea what that's going to be like. I am curious, but I have no idea.
Yeah, because I love a bit of ancient Greek mythology retellings. But as for film adaptations, that's a really good question. The Lord of the Rings ones are quite good at capturing the spirit.
Yes.
And because the books, apparently Tolkien was a nightmare to walk around with. Apparently he'd stop and stare at a tree for an hour and admire its beauty. And that shows, you know what I mean? So, but I think the films did the best they could there. I might choose that. There's a film I watched recently, which is an adaptation of a biblical book, which is The Prince of Egypt. It's the story of Moses.
The cartoon?
Love it.
The
it's
animated
so
version?
Good.
It's so good. You mean it like with the music and everything?
Yeah, Let My People Go. You know that one?
It's so good.
Amazing, isn't it? Oh, I'm glad you're in agreement.
Wait, you've only seen that recently?
No. I rewatched it recently because I was like, that's good. And then I watched it and went, oh my God, it's even better than I remember. Because do you know the story behind that? The studio was making Shrek at the same time. And they thought Shrek, apparently, this may not be true, but they thought Shrek would be really bad and Prince of Egypt would do amazing. And then if an animator did something wrong as punishment, they would send them off to the Shrek studio and it was called getting Shreked. But lo and behold,
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then Shrek did amazing. Prince of Egypt did all right, and then all the animators that went to work for Shrek got better sort of paychecks for it, I guess. But that's funny trivia about that. But anyway, Prince of Egypt, so good. I might rewatch it again actually. Yeah. But what about yourself though? I'm curious. Favorite book adaptations. I mean, how literary would you consider yourself? Because you seem to have your passions and your niches.
It's a good question. I mean, I love reading, but it's so varied. Like the last book I read, so I had watched Memoirs of a Geisha, I think that's what it's called, and I'd seen it, and I said, okay, this is a very compelling story, but how much of it is true? So then I got a autobiography by Mineko Iwasaki, if I'm saying her name right, and it was talking about her life as a geisha and her actual. So I love literature in the sense of fiction, but I also love nonfiction. So if I watch something really interesting, then I kind of want to know if that's real. So then I'll read something about it. I did really like more recent. I did like Hamlet. I love the book.
Yes. A copy here.
Do you like it? Because some people hate it, but I really liked it.
That's a very good point. I really like it. I really liked it. I saw the film recently. I was in absolute floods of tears.
I know. Me too. But I thought it could be very real. It could have happened.
I mean, to be fair, the correlation between having a play named after your recently deceased son, assuming the Stratfordian theory that he is the man from Stratford. By the way, it's pretty much 100% guaranteeable, I would say. I know, actually, I'm not biased. I did I got an hour worth of a YouTube video which I posted recently where we broke it down.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes.
Oh, did you? Thanks. Yeah, we were there. Philip was basically doing all the heavy lifting. He's coming over tomorrow for another video. But anyway, but yeah, it can, like, what I think about adaptations is that more important than being accurate to the plot points of the story, because that kind of storytelling wasn't as much of a convention in older works. More than that is capturing the spirit of a book, and in a respectful way. Like, you can change things massively. Like, Apocalypse Now is an adaptation of The Heart of Darkness.
Yes. Yeah.
It takes place in the Vietnam War, and it's vastly different, and yet it still feels like a generous ode to it. I would imagine that wouldn't be the case with the Wuthering Heights adaptation. And this, even though it's filling in a lot of gaps and making characters be like things they might not have been, it's beautiful. And I think a beautiful storyteller like Shakespeare wouldn't be grumpy about a beautiful story about him.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I was thinking. I mean, okay, I was just thinking too. So I love Edgar Allan Poe. I love his poetry. I love his short stories, which creeps my husband out, but I love them. I think they're super, super good. And then I do really like the film adaptation, the BBC series that is old now. It had Timothy Dalton as Mr. Rochester. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with that one.
That's an older one. It's a Zela Clark as Jane Eyre, and it's a series. It's a mini series, so they had more time to kind of break Jane Eyre down.
I didn't see that one. I saw the other one.
Which?
But,
the one with Toby Jones and
yeah.
the guy who comes up on your video.
Hang on. Yeah. This one. How is that one, by the way? The BBC. Did you say it was a miniseries?
Yes, it's older. So, like, it's not gonna have special effects of any kind. It's very dialogue driven.
Oh, really? Oh, so it's very, very true to the source material.
I thought it was. I mean, it's not in that Timothy Dalton is good looking. Mr. Rochester is supposed to be ugly, but
yeah.
Jane Eyre is very plain in the movie. But like I don't know how the newest one I remember watching when I was young, and I think the newest one's like 2012. I don't remember, with Michael Fassbender.
I saw at university. Yes.
When I was a kid, I thought it was really, I think it was very compelling as a kid because there was such a dark tone to it. But when I rewatched it, I wasn't as impressed as when I was a kid. And I was disappointed. I wanted to be as impressed as I was when I was a kid.
I know, don't we always when we're rewatching something? Oh, that's so true. Now I agree. Maybe it's a bit too aesthetic for the book, I think.
Yeah. There's not a lot of dialogue either, really.
No, it's not staring wistfully, which again captures the spirit of the wandering of the moors that is the Brontes' works. But you're right. It's like the Brontes let their characters, for good or bad, speak. And the books got to do that as well. Sorry, the adaptations had to do that as well. That's a very good point, actually.
But I also felt that the Jane Eyre in that one, they went either... So many movies go either Jane Eyre is like super naive or super closed off and reserved.
Yeah.
And in the new one, she was stone ice. And I in the book, she is so emotive, like inside. And there's no way they didn't capture that. And that was the hard part for me, is because I'm like, Jane Eyre isn't a stoic. She's so far from a stoic. But in the movie, she was very raw personality.
Yeah, that's the trouble with 19th century literature, is that you will have 4 pages of a character internally monologuing or soliloquizing, I should say, about their feelings and their relationship with whatever's going on in the book. You know, like Dickens does it as well. And
do you like Dickens?
Oh, I love Dickens. Oh, he's class. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, to be fair, I said this in a video, I did read something. He was a bit of a bad husband, to say the least.
Yes,
he was. Exactly. So I read that article on him and was like, oh, that's really upset me. So I didn't touch him for like 5-6 months. And then recently I looked at Oliver Twist.
That's so biased of you. You're supposed to read things, remember? This is the whole conversation we just had.
You're correct. Well, to be fair, as I said, you can choose what you read. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to table him for the time being. It's got a bad taste in my mouth. And then I did a video recently on Oliver Twist and remembered, oh yeah, he's a good reader and has amazing social commentaries for the time.
Yeah.
So you're right. That was a misstep from me. But yeah, he's just so good, actually, to be fair. I need to reread A Tale of Two Cities. It's one of his more unique
So
ones.
good. Yeah.
Right.
Do you like Nicholas Nickleby?
Oh my God, it's been years since I've read it, but I remember not liking it at school. So that's what I need to get back. I've got an old copy just over there, actually. But what about you?
I did. I love it. And I loved
Okay.
Little Dorrit. Little Dorrit I read once because it's an extremely long book. But
Oh yeah.
I did really like it.
Oh, good. I think people that like Dickens, I think Dickens, you've either never read a book of his, or you've just like delved into a bunch. You know what I mean? It's like Marmite kind of. And he is just so good. What do you think of, in terms of adaptations, what do you think of the musical adaptation of Oliver Twist? I think it's just called Oliver, isn't it? There was an old one. Have you seen it? It's from the 1980s,
I
1986. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I ended up interviewing the lady who played Nancy in that. She's 92 now. And I love the music from it. But is it Dickens? No. I mean, it's a very, very happy story in the musical. I mean, obviously the murder isn't happy, but like they also really toned that down. It's gruesome in the book, and then you have the chapter where Bill Sikes is haunted by her ghost, and it's just like it gives you chills when you're reading it.
Yeah.
But in the in the musical, and they're all like, in The Artful Dodger, when really like this is literally human trafficking of children.
Yeah. Dickens is trying to bring
but
light
yes,
to
it is very fun. It's not Dickens.
Yeah, that's such a good point. It adds whimsy to a story that does not require it.
But I mean, how could you not like The Artful Dodger in the musical? I mean, he's so cute.
Oh, he's so fun. Yeah. Well, even oh God, what's his name? The old chap. You got to pick a pocket or two.
Yeah. The Fagin guy.
Yeah, that's him, Fagin. Yeah, even he's kind of a likable malcontent, for lack of a better term. Like, and it's fun, but you're right, it's not quite the same. And I just remember loving it as a child, though, and that nostalgia really carries it.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why, but yeah. I don't know how many other works have been adapted from Dickens. Actually, I'm not familiar with many others.
Well, there's the Little Dorrit BBC adaptation. Did you see that?
A while ago, if I have, I can't remember.
That's good.
Christmas Carol just popped in my head. That one's been adapted a bunch, actually.
Christmas Carol, yeah.
Yeah, classic with Ebenezer Scrooge and all that. I need to reread that. That's a fun book. I was trying to debate whether or not I would consider Dickens as to be a truly gothic storyteller, because you mentioned the ghosts in Oliver Twist, definitely in Christmas Carol, and eerie gothic themes are definitely implemented, but I don't know if he's more of a naturalist or not, in the way that you consider like Wuthering Heights a gothic book, or Frankenstein, for example. So I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that? Because I'm actually on the fence. I'm going to make a video on it soon.
I was going to say you should do a video on it. I don't know.
It's a funny one. To be fair, sometimes, and I can't believe I'm saying this, sometimes the titles are a bit arbitrary. Each novelist, even a Brontes who share similarities in their books, can be observed through individuality. And even those in the Romantic period, to compare Byron and Shelley, they're not that similar.
Great Expectations is a gothic-y feel.
That's a good point.
Mrs. Havisham is very...
Yeah. In that miserable old house, actually. Yeah.
And how she wants to make her ward, I don't remember her name, but is like hate men as much as she does, like the ghost of a person.
Her against. Yeah. God, I forgot about that. I saw a good adaptation of that when I was younger as well. I think I'll probably land on the conclusion that he is a gothic writer. Or
let's leave a cliffhanger, because you're going to make a video.
I like that. Yes, exactly. Stay for more, folks. Watch part 2. Or whatever.
All right, so one last question, because I want to be respectful of your time. What is one misconception people have of literary nerds? People say that a lot. nerds, literary nerds, what's something that you think people, they're like, oh, a misconception people have about literary people?
I will say, and I think this is the same because I spoke about this with a friend of mine who's a classicist in literary nerddom, and another one who's a historian, and we were all saying that there is a misconception when you're a nerd, and in literature a lot as well. People assume that you kind of read everything, and even me, who talks about it online, I haven't read everything. A lot of people have come up to me and said, "Oh my god, do you know about this?" I'm like, "No, didn't read it. Like, I don't know. Sorry." And and that is fine. I think it's kind of like survivor bias insofar that, like, I talk about that which I know, so people assume I know about that which I haven't spoken about, and there are things I have yet to speak about which I do know, but I'm not omniscient, and and I'm not an encyclopedia. Maybe one day, but even the greatest, even my most intelligent professors, there were things where they're like, "Oh yeah, I never read Finnegan's Wake, I never read Ulysses," and that's fine. So that's a misconception that I think should be debunked. And yeah, it's more about trying to read the right things than it is trying to capture it all like Icarus or something.
Can you do a video one day of, like, maybe you've already done it, Pride and Prejudice, like the
I haven't
film
touched
adaptations of Pride and Prejudice? Because people have
Oh
that is a fighter. But I would
yeah,
love to know your thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts.
that's yeah. Oh my gosh, because yeah. That's Austen. So
That's a little more rompy.
It is actually.
A little
Actually,
more fun.
I should have gone for Jane Austen rather than the Brontë. When I finished the Brontes, I should have sidestepped to Jane because it is rompy. You're right, but I haven't touched Pride and Prejudice yet, and
I'm going to look forward to this.
I've been pocketing it because I'm like, oh, I don't know, this is such a good one, and people hold her works so close to their hearts that I'm like, I need to really set some time to properly understand and cerebrate what will be that pantheon of works. But
well, if you have another woman who like has the same passion as you in your sphere, maybe you went to school with or something, you could have a female perspective too. That would be really interesting.
That's a really good point, actually. I have someone in mind now that you've mentioned it. That's a really good idea because, yeah, actually, you raise an interesting point about how perspectives of who's analyzing a book, you should say that everyone's impartial, yada, 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 but everyone has their inbuilt, ingrained biases, and sometimes that's fine. So you're right. I think I would like to expand on, like when I was talking about Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, which is a feminist essay, and I was reading it and I was talking about it, and then a friend of mine who's well read, and she's a woman, and she was like, "Did you not consider this on it?" And I was like, "Oh, I did not think about that." She's like, "Because you're a bloke, wonder." And I'm like, you're right. Anyway, sorry, I digress. But film adaptations of Pride and Prejudice, P&P. Thank you very much. That's great advice. Yeah.
No, but thank you so much for doing this. I've had so much fun, and I love what you're doing. Please keep it up. People really enjoy it.
Oh, thank you so much. And ditto. Thanks for having me. This is a nice break from just writing all day and making videos.
Well, you can still talk to people, so you're still social enough. It's still working.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all right. You know what to say. Well done. But thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Have a lovely one. Bye.